This new Nintendo thing has basically got the entire gaming community in an uproar. We are not an echo chamber. Now, if you haven't been on the internet in the last 24 hours, you probably have not seen basically not vitriol, but people arguing with each other. You know, like gamers do within the gaming industry because of the Nintendo Direct announcements. Also, it has a huge part to do with the price hike in the games, less so to do with the consoles. Let's go into a little bit. This will be a less conventional video because I'm not going to an article. Instead, what I'm going to do is highlight a couple of tweets, conversations that I was in because I feel a certain way. I can also see their side of it. So nobody is hating on anybody and anybody who gets pulled up in this. And here's just the first one that I want to say. This is my boy Nagranal. He is the king. Well, Eric K is the king modder, but he is the prince elect modder. Nintendo is out of their mind if they think charging $70 to $80 per game is a good idea. They're just pushing potential customers away. Games would fly off the shelves if they just charge 60. There is one thing that I do. Well, there's a lot of stuff that I have to say about this, and we will unpack kind of some of these things. I see where he's coming from because the price hike itself, it's kind of out of nowhere to the normie. We talked about this. At least I made a video about it a couple of months ago. Whenever the GTA 6, whenever that comes and gets released, that they are toying with the idea of it coming out at a base price of $100. And what that would mean is that setting an industry standard or, all kinds of other stuff. But yes, I do agree a little bit with this, charging $70 to $80 per game. Some games in the UK actually have come out and said they're like 90 quid. And as of right now, the euro is more valuable than the US dollar. But there's a lot of things that we can talk about whenever it comes to this. I don't necessarily think that this is going to drive people away from the games because one of the first things that I said, one of the first things that I thought about was like Nintendo, for the most part, normally releases actually full games and doesn't rely on microtransactions. There is an argument to be made about that too. And this is why I'm saying we're not crapping on anybody because we're trying to see all sides of this argument. And there is one solution that I'll give you at the end of this. Now, while he talks about that, obviously a very salient point, obviously something that's going to be the knee-jerk reaction for absolutely everyone. It's like, oh, we've already paying $60 and all these games fucking suck. And they're constantly putting more and more stuff out that's unfinished. And then I have to pay more to get more content. I have to pay more for DLCs. If I'm going to pay that much, you know what I used to get back in the day? I used to get like all these boxes of t-shirts and statues and steel cases and all that. There's another point that we have to bring up, and I don't have it pulled up. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it. But a lot of people have said, look at the inflation. The inflation thing is a giant issue that is coming up within these arguments. And should we say arguments or should we say debates between friends? Because we're not slinging mud at each other. We're talking about our thoughts and thought processes on both sides of where you stand. And guess what? There's no hatred in that. Look here, Libby's. You can do it this way too. But one of the things that people have been talking about is the inflation thing, which is I see some validity in this argument because you go back to, oh my gosh, Craig, help me out. Is it Neo Geo adjusted for inflation? And granted, there's another point that I don't have pulled up, but Nagranal did say it. Granted, even though the Neo Geo adjusted for inflation would be about $1,500 in today's money, it didn't sell very well. That is a point that he makes. So I got to give him credit. But setting the standards for the games, and especially with a new console, there's something that needs to be said for, okay, we need to be up with the times. And also, since they're taking over, basically the console wars are gone, eradicated. Xbox and Sony killed themselves And Nintendo is just riding off with the war trophy. They're riding off with the laurels. They're riding off with a bouquet of flowers around the horse's neck of the king. They can kind of dictate a little bit more of this stuff because people are going to pay for it. Most of Nintendo's actual profits don't come from America, even though it is huge in America. Most of it is a worldwide thing, and it's less so paying attention to the politics of westernized countries. So I do need to put that in there. But let's go into the next thing, and this is something that comes from Eric July. Ripa. Some of you might know him as Young Ripa. Some of you might know him from Backwards, his band. Hail the Ripaverse. He's going to do a video later on today, and so he'll explain his position a lot more. But if you don't watch Rip and the Silverback, it is a great live stream that comes on about once a week, usually Wednesdays, with Heel versus Babyface and Eric July himself. He just started thinking more along the lines of how I was actually thinking already. Now, we don't agree on everything. All of his points don't necessarily make sense, but he's coming from it for a business perspective. We are not far away from $100 video games, and honestly, it's a market correction that has been delayed for a long time. And this is one thing that I did say. I didn't say it to him, but I said it in other conversations. I've been in a lot of conversations with people regarding this issue where I said, it's like, no, the price has remained stagnant because it was a market standard for a long time. So any increase in that, especially if it's a supposed to be standardized increase, will upset people. But I understand where they're coming from. I also understand how the inflation argument comes into it, where it's like, well, yeah, it needs to catch up. There's also another point that I need to go into before we even get into this thing. I'm just going to go ahead and go into it and say it right now. Otherwise, I'll probably forget. Some people may argue that the rise in prices, this will just be a PR move, but some people may argue that the rise in prices will go to account for, how many people that are on their staff, how long it takes, and, how much production actually costs. But what I hope will happen, and yes, these moves do have to, in my opinion, these moves do need to be made before we can actually affect a market change in the culture of gaming, because we've seen bloated budgets. We've seen delays and delays and delays. And what comes out is absolute dog shit. It's completely horrible. We need to get it back to quality and those people that put out actual quality, and people should expect quality from the customers, from the producers. There should be quality expected, demanded, and delivered. And that should earn the price of that dollar that you're putting on there. Now, the inflation thing was, well, I've seen people, and I think I talked about Nagarnal earlier when he said that the inflation thing was most of those games didn't sell as many copies. Like, well, back then, there's another argument that I could put to that. Back then, video games were a hobby and not really a passion. If you really think about it, they were less of a passion, more of a hobby, and more for people, to shut their kids up. But anyway, let's digress from that, because this topic is so dadgum nuanced. We could have this talk literally for like 36 hours straight with a whole bunch of people, and everyone can give their side and everyone could give and take. We are not an echo chamber. Who'd have thunk? But Eric goes to say we are not far away from $100 video games, and honestly, it's a market correction delayed. Buckle up. I posted on this to Run the Crusader. Shout out my brother. He said, well, it's a matter of time before I'd find something to disagree with you on. And what did he disagree to? The games are not going to be better. Yes, a significant portion of the population will pay for the new standard. There shouldn't even be one, with virtually no pushback. Whether this is a good or a bad thing is irrelevant to the general point. I kind of agree with him on this. I don't fully agree with him on it. But I think it should be a push. It should be a market change push to force the companies to make things better, because it needs to live up to the dollar. Free market will decide. Eric July is big on the free market. We're not going to go into politics too much about this, but Ronan does say this little stuff right here. And this is where I come in, by the way, he's a great friend. So I was like, do tell, I'm not here to berate, but to understand the other side of the argument because I want to hear from everybody. I want to understand. And he says that his own perspective is I don't see how the price of games rising up to $100 for a standard edition copy can be considered a market correction. Seems more like a market collapse acceleration, which at this point, I'd rather see that happen. Only reason why it wouldn't, too many normies and casual gamers that will continue to shell out exorbitant money for these slop games. And this is something that I actually did touch on a little bit earlier, where it used to be a hobby and it used to have so many different roles to fill. And so maybe it will weed out some of the people who are, basically driving the DEI pushes that have been infiltrating our games for so long. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But here's what I say. I truly think, in direct response to him, by the way, I truly think it is a highly convoluted confluence of events that led here. And this is why it would take so long to actually get through this conversation. People talk of inflation. There's some truth to it, which I believe there is. People talk about the quality of games that are supposed to be completed. That's me. That was the big thing that I said in the live chat over on Ripping the Silverback. The quality of games that are supposed to come out completed, but what have they done now? They've gone the EA route, microtransactions. Oh, now you need subscriptions. Oh, now you need to put your dadgum information into a separate site for whatever that game developer is in order to fully have access to the game that always has glitches they expect on day one patches. And it's like a Pavlovian response that people have gotten. It's because it's been how long? 10, 15 years. The base game price has been around $60 whenever you go to Walmart, whenever you go to Best Buy before they tanked or just started selling refrigerators and refrigerators only. It's been about $60 for a game. Well, all that physical media is dying. Your digital media, yeah, you still pay the same price, but they literally come out and tell you, dick swinging, that you don't we could take that away at any time. And then in my continuation, because I knew this is not something that can be put out in my limited number of characters, the absolute crutch that those things have become with a sedentary public that has become used to the $60 base price. I guess it's a more poignant way of saying what I just said out of my mouth. It became the norm, and people are always adverse to change. It's always going to rub them a little bit raw whenever after they get out of their seat. Whenever you make a I shouldn't say that. Whenever you make someone stand up or get out of bed and they've got full of bed sores, but they thought they were happy, it's just because they haven't moved, because their muscles have atrophied. There's so much that went into this decision. The stone finally rolled down the hill because we've been, in my own opinion, have been sitting on this for way too long without change, without adaptation. The only adaptation has been corruption. That's just one guy's opinion. What do you guys think? I know there's so much more, and I am willing to have a conversation with every single person that wants to debate this kind of stuff. Eric July from the Ripaverse will be putting out a video. I have no idea what he's going to say, but I highly suggest you go check it out. It's going to come out later on this evening. This is Multi from Mouth of Multi. What do you guys think? I don't think it's as big a deal as what people seem to be making it out to be. However, I did tell you there would be an answer. The answer is let the customer decide. That's basically it. I mean, these companies, these corporations, they're going to do whatever they want to anyway, but you vote with your wallet. If you don't think it's worth it, that's okay. You don't have to buy it. If you think it's not a big deal and you want it, okay. And then if you pay that kind of money and you get something that's absolute dog shit, bitch them out. But this is the free market. This is kind of like where I sit with pretty much everything when it regards this kind of stuff. If you have anything different, leave it down in the comment section below. Y'all have a great day. Take care, ladies and gentlemen. There's only like one lady watching, so but ladies first. Bye.
Congratulations, you're a failure.
Where the fuck is it? I had like 3 of these on this one. Oh, they're all supposed to be bookmarked. Basically, as golly, what's his streamer name? What is his streamer name? I just know him as Heel versus Babyface. That's what it is. Nintendo